Recording. Yeah, session is on recording. So if we recall what we have been doing last week, so we basically started doing 4 pillars of ESP, English for Specific Purposes. And we talked about that the 4 pillars are needs analysis, learning objectives, materials and methods, and number 4 is evaluation. Of these 4, we have already covered needs analysis in a chapter, okay? That's the first step. Basically, these pillars are the steps. What do you need to do in order to design a specific syllabus for specific group of people, okay? English for specific purposes. So we are already done with needs analysis, and we also started with learning objectives, okay, which happened to be chapter 5 from this book, where we are going to decide how to make these learning objectives, what kind of analysis should take place in order to determine the learning objective, okay? So needs analysis is altogether a different analysis, but when we talk about deciding about learning objectives for specific courses and programs, we need some other kinds of analysis as well. So among those analysis are register analysis that we are done with, then rhetorical analysis or the discourse analysis that we are going to do today, and the genre analysis that's right in front of you, okay? So as far as the register analysis is concerned, if we can recall it a bit, we know that, you know, registers are basically they are defined as consisting of jargons, okay? And if we define register according to the book, these are characteristic set of language elements, right? Now, why do we need to look for those characteristic set of language element through register analysis? Because we are trying to design a course or a syllabus for people who would be part of specific profession, or we might be doing it for EAP, okay? So that's why we need to look at the characteristic set of language elements. Now, these language elements can be grammatical elements, these can be vocabulary, which are associated with a particular profession, situation, purpose, or even social context, right? So in register analysis, we also analyze the style, what kind of style might be needed by people of particular profession or a field. So we have a number of options as far as styles are concerned. We have formal style, informal style, academic style, public style, casual style, okay, and then private or just neutral style. Let me add few of your class fellows. Okay, and so in register analysis, we need to analyze the styles also, which might be needed by people of a particular group, and then we need to look for the frequent use of vocabulary in that particular domain or the field, grammar, okay, all of these. So we also need to differentiate here between general English and English for specific purposes. Basically, when we are talking about general English, or the English that is usually designed for academic purposes, English that is for academic purposes, of course, starts with the teaching of general English, which constitutes mastering of tenses, modal verbs, main verbs, auxiliaries, parts of speech, then the kind of sentences, logical connectors, nominalizations, and how to ask questions. All of this is a part of general English. But when we are trying to develop and decide for the objectives of ESP, right? So we rarely go for the grammar rules or um, specific grammar, okay? But we, of course, whenever we talk about English as a second language or English for specific purposes, we cannot deny the importance of grammar. But the choice, what we are going to teach, particularly as far as the syntax is concerned or the vocabulary is concerned, basically um, the objectives are directed and they link the needs analysis. Okay, so whatever grammar, vocabulary, of course we would teach in ESP, in every ESP course. This would be a part there, explicitly or implicitly, but those would be based on and on theoretically grounded principles. Okay, there would be some principles, there would be some learning principles, there would be some learning theories, which we would be doing in a while discussing our genre analysis and later on the metacognitive skills. Okay, so register analysis now in the times of software can be done as corpus analysis, right? And this corpus analysis can be conducted through softwares. One of the softwares that is mentioned here that tries to find out the frequency of language elements present in a particular text. Okay, that is called as NCOC, right? If I get time, and if you have time, I'll show you how do you run this software NCOC, or at least I can share some of the studies that are conducted through NCOC. Okay, anyway, what you need to remember for ESP is when you are doing your register analysis, see, the first thing was the needs analysis. That is really related to people, asking people what might be their need, okay? All the stakeholders, the instructor, administrator, learners. But when it comes to register analysis, you are actually analyzing some of the text that are that are taught to these people or that they make use of. So this is not human conversation in register analysis as it was in needs analysis, right? So basically register analysis is a corpus kind of an analysis, and nowadays it is done through running of softwares which may tell you the frequency um, of use of certain grammatical elements, maybe which are more frequently used and which are less frequently used. Uh, Same goes with the use of vocabulary, frequently used words and less frequently used words. So such software would give you that kind of information. So what you would do after your register analysis, or maybe through NCOG, you will make ESP or English for a specific purpose syllabus by making use of more frequently occurring words, which might be the need of a particular group of people. Okay, you might try to teach them those structures that are frequent part of their workplaces or their classroom practices or their need for particular purposes. Okay, so that is how you are going to make use of register analysis, right? So reminding you again, now we are right now working with learning objectives. How do you design the objective? So all of these are processes that would help you in deciding for designing of the learning objectives. Okay, and once we are done with all this analysis, we would know that, yeah, based on these objectives, these learning objectives, a syllabus or a curriculum is designed. Okay, so no curriculum can be designed haphazardly. All curriculum are goal oriented. Okay, they are based on certain objectives to be met through their teaching and learning. So we are moving towards how to, design those objectives. One more thing I would like to mm, tell you here, which is important, that initially, while you are doing these analysis and trying to build some of the learning objectives, the learning objective might be not sequenced. They might be uh, random, or they might be too many. Okay. But in the initial stages, you just make the objective whatever the result of these analysis might be. But then we are going to study how do you sequence those objectives. Okay. And the sequencing might be based on principles of learning that we would be referring to in a while. Okay. So what I want to say here is that whatever analysis we would be reading, okay, register analysis we have already done. I was only revising it for you. So today we are going to do the rhetorical analysis, which was also called as the discourse analysis. And then we would be doing the genre analysis, right? So all of these analysis would take us towards designing certain objectives. Okay. Um, so again, we are not working with people as we were in needs analysis. In all of these analysis, we are working with text. And if you can recall, in the reflection in the beginning of this chapter, we were asked to read an abstract from the field of chemistry. Okay, so what was required there, if we are, and we will, in an activity later on, if we are asked to design ESP for the scholars of chemistry um, who would like to use or utilize their language skills in writing of abstract, so what kind of syllabus should be taught to them, or what should be the basic components in their syllabus, right? So right now, whatever analysis we are doing, we are looking at the kind of text that is used by these people, or the kind of text that we aim at writing. Okay, we want them to write that abstract successfully. So what kind of English and what kind of structure might be the need of those students, right? Now there are two kinds of approaches. Okay, one is the top-down approach, and the other is the bottom approach. So when we are doing the register analysis, we are dealing with the bottom-up approach. We start from the basic and then we go to something that is advanced. Okay, so in register analysis, we talked about the styles, we talked about the characteristic set of language elements, and then we go up. Okay, that is the bottom-up kind of analysis. The rhetorical analysis or the discourse analysis is a top-down approach, right? Here, we do not work with the forms, okay? We start with the wider or the broader question, why particular language feature were more frequent, okay? In register analysis, we actually started with the grammatical elements, or the characteristic, frequently occurring characteristic elements of language, right? Now here, we broadly answer some of the questions in discourse analysis. Why a particular language feature were more frequent? What is the use of these features in that particular field? We talk about cohesion and coherence in rhetorical or the discourse analysis. Okay, so basically, top-down approach gives instructor more informed basis. Okay, why are we doing it? Okay, or why such a thing is frequent and why such an element is less frequent is all part of your rhetorical or discourse analysis, right? For instance, there is an example here, you know, EOP instructor can use rhetorical analysis to focus on and explain why an increased use of modal verbs appear in the language of telephone operators that need to respond to customer inquiries in a polite and respectful way, right? So you are trying to analyze different discourses, and by discourses we mean, the necessary text. Now, in in EAP for academic purposes, for instance, we looked at the abstract, right? And in EOP, we usually work with conversations. That's why the word discourse is used here. So discourse can be written, discourse can be spoken, but as an example that is given to you because people who are working at helplines and they're working at call centers, so their language can be analyzed as a part of rhetorical or discourse analysis. Why do they use certain language forms more than the others? What can be the polite strategies? Okay, strategies to use the language politely. So we would be talking about broader things than we have done in register analysis. How the actual use of language takes place, okay, and what needs to be taught to the people. What is their frequent need as far as using of discourse is concerned, okay. So here, in rhetorical analysis, for instance, you were analyzing maybe an abstract. Now what you have analyzed here in rhetorical analysis, um, English for occupational instructors, so they can analyze the language of telephone operators who need to respond. This is their need, okay. So they are responding to the customers and they have to stay polite. They don't have to get angry at people, okay. So how are they going to reply in polite and respectful way? What forms of words, what kind of structures they would make use of, right? So this is your rhetorical or discourse analysis, right? So what is important is that learners not only understand why the target language is used as it is, or the discourse that is used, but that they begin to develop their own rhetorical awareness that they can apply later in understanding and creation of unseen spoken written text. So you cannot exactly teach them what to say when they receive a call, because you do not know what exact inquiries would be people making from them. So but through rhetorical analysis you will construct ESP for them that will help them in conversing politely with their customers, okay. They might make use of some vocabulary, some styles also, so improve their communication skills, okay. And then what will happen is, as I've told you, you cannot exactly um, ask them to rote learn some of the lines. You can do that. We would see that there are cases where learning theories like behaviorism is also used just to ask them or teach them to rote learn few of the lines that they have to say to the customers. But more importantly, you're going to make them aware and aware of their discourses, which they can apply, and they can apply in understanding and creating their own spoken and written text, okay. So this is what rhetorical analysis is. And again, I'm reminding you that rhetorical analysis we are doing to come up with some objectives, okay, so that we can, as ESP uh, designers, we can come up with certain objectives, okay. So the implication of this analysis and the register analysis and the yonder analysis that we are going about to do um, will result in designing of objectives And where would these objectives be used? These objectives would be used in designing a curriculum and the syllabus. Okay. Other than these analysis, we need to check certain principles of learning and some of the theoretical grounds of learning theories as well. Okay, so all of these should end up in the designing of syllabus basically. So these are only the steps. These are the kinds of analysis that one should do in order to design a useful syllabus and a curriculum for people who are in need of learning English for specific purposes. Okay, let me add few of your class fellows and then we will continue. So the last kind of analysis that we would be looking at is the genre analysis. Now genre, by definition, we usually define genre in terms of literary text, okay, or literary work, and we define it as a kind of work which has characteristic form or technique. So whichever literary work will have the same technique and have the same form would lie within one genre. Okay, for instance, novel is a genre, drama is another genre. Now, what is the characteristic technique of writing a play or a drama? It should have a plot. Okay, it should have dialogues. So whatever or whichever literary text would have um, dialogues and the plot, we would say that it belongs to the genre of drama, for instance. So then there are genres for poetry also. Um, there are ballads and there are sonnets. So all of these are different genre of poetry. Okay, but genre, as far as English for a specific purpose is concerned, is a little different. Okay, one thing you need to remember for your ease and for your learning, so that it stays in your memory for longer, is commonality. As I've defined literary genre as having some common characteristic in form or technique. Okay, similar is the case when we are talking about genre in ESP. Okay, so how do we analyze genre? Now, genre analysis basically deals with communicative events or which have a communicative event, which communicative events which have a single or a common communicative purpose or similar purposes. Okay, as one genre, one literary genre has same form and technique. So when we are talking about genre, as far as ESP is concerned, it means that it's a comprise a class of communicative event, one class of communicative event, and those should share one or similar communicative purposes, right? So, and these purposes are recognized by discourse community. Okay, so this is how the genre is defined, designed, and what you are going to do is to analyze these genre. For instance, uh, and these genre, of course, have some constraints in the choice of content and style. They'll have one style and similar content, but of course one genre would be constrained, that is it cannot use some other style. For instance, if I give you an example of genre, patient doctor conversation is one genre. When you are bargaining with the salesperson, that's another genre. Okay, um, academic discourses are another genre, and within academic discourses you have classroom discourses. Within classroom discourses you have teacher-student discourse, student-student discourse, but which happen formally and in the classroom. So this is what we analyze here, right? Now what happens is through these genre analysis, the course designers and instructor can identify communicative purpose. Okay, because one genre would serve one communicative purpose, right? So in genre analysis, what do we analyze? We analyze intended audience, target text. Okay, um, then we can identify who would be the participants in a particular communicative event, right? So using all of this information, and what could be the content, what could be the style, who would be the intended audience, what would be the target discourse. Okay, using the above, you can design their course objective. As I'm reminding you again and again, that all of these analysis would and should end up in designing of course objectives. Okay, then syllabus is based on course objective, while course objectives are based on these analysis, right? So this is Swell's definition of the genre, right? What do we mean by genre as far as ESP is concerned, and what do we analyze in the genre? So genre refers to the communicative events. Okay, we would be disconnected in 10 minutes, and we'll try to get reconnected. Okay, so genre is a communicative event, or a set of communicative event, or a class of communicative event, and what is common in all these communicative event is set of communicative purposes, right? These purposes are identified by the discourse community. So if it's a patient doctor discourse, um, it's a bargaining discourse. So the members of that discourse community who would understand it would agree to these. Now, such discourses would be in a particular style. They would have a particular or a certain kind of content. Okay. For instance, in your classroom discourses or discourses between teachers and student, um, there wouldn't be anything like bargaining, or the language that you, or the style that you use while you are, shopping, or you're talking to the doctor, um, or some other kind of discourses. So every discourse comes with its own content, with its own style, which you analyze through genre analysis, including the intended audience. Who would be the audience? Who would be the participants? So using all of these, you can design your course objectives. Now, the simplest example that we can get of genre analysis is, learning and writing and creating business letters, reports, speeches, and job applications, making of CV, because all of these belong to not only the academic discourses but also to the business discourses. Okay, it is a part of business discourse to write business letters, to write business reports, to make speeches, to write, emails, business emails, to write down your CVs and cover letters, all of this. So this is done through the genre analysis. So for learners, genre knowledge, if the learners have the genre knowledge, this can be useful to them in the creation of all of these that I have named a while ago: business letters, reports, speeches, all of these, right? So if they know the genre, so they will know their needs also. And if you are doing genre analysis for the business students, then in your ESP, all of these business report writing, letters, speeches would be a part of ESP, what you have designed for them, for instance, right? So what is important here to remember is that the scope of genre analysis goes beyond just the analysis of static written and spoken text. Okay, because we have already gone to the discourses. So in genre analysis, it's just not the analysis of written text or the static text, but it is actually the analysis of the actual um, communication or the communicative events that take place in real life situations. Okay, so with this we have covered the analysis part. Okay, I'm disconnecting because we would be disconnected in 5 minutes, so I'm already disconnecting it, but you are going to come to the class again, right? Because the session would end abruptly. I wouldn't like the session to end that way. Before we start with learning and metacognitive skills, and that we have already completed 3 kinds of analysis, I would like to restart the class. Okay, so just join the meeting again.